Hey everybody, guess what? We're live this afternoon. I have author with me, Mary Marantz. She's in Franklin. She's going to tell us about her book. So, unfortunately, you guys, she has some events local that are all sold out, but she's been very kind to jump on here with us to tell us about her new book. So, you're getting a firsthand glance right here with Mary. Good
Yeah.
to see you this afternoon.
Oh, Donna, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to get to hang out.
So you and I were just chatting. You're from Connecticut, but you were telling me how much you love Franklin already. You've just been here a short time. Tell us about that.
I feel like everything just has such an attention to detail. Like everything's beautiful. We drove from here to Ramsey Studios this morning, and just even the landscaping, all the flowers, it's so beautiful.
Well, we're so lucky to have you here. Let's talk about you're launching a new book called Dirt,
Yes, that's right.
which in these days can mean a lot of different things. Dirt.
Yeah, it's an unusual name, I think, for a book, and it's sort of like a name that makes you go, what's this book going to be about? People either think it's about gardening or it's like a tell-all,
Yeah.
throw people under the bus sort of memoir, and it's neither of those things really. It's about some of the best parts of us are grown in the muddiest parts of our story.
Oh.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have to say the Real Housewives part of my brain went to, oh yeah, the dirt. I want to hear the dirt.
Yeah.
But let's talk about, you said talking about the muddiest parts of our lives. Tell me more about that.
Well, I feel like this book in its most elevator pitch version would be single wide trailer in rural West Virginia to Yale Law School. And I think that's a story we've heard a few different ways, humble beginnings to the Ivy League. But what I think makes this book different is that even if neither of those extremes resonate with you, that you didn't grow up in a trailer or you didn't end up, at like the top of your field in some way, or the top school that you wanted, that sort of thing, the Ivy League, as it were. Um, if neither of those extremes resonate with you, you can still very much find yourself in this story. And that's the biggest thing we've been hearing from readers is how can a story that's so different from mine also be my own? And how can I find myself so much in this book? Because I think the thing we all really have in common is we have these parts of our story, these parts of ourselves that we believe disqualify us from walking into most rooms, from sitting at most tables. And so we try to cover up those parts and hide them away. We try to become that most put together version of ourselves, the most put together woman in the room. And when we do that, we are actually expending all of this energy just because we think it makes us feel more acceptable to the people we're meeting, when in reality that becomes kind of a brick wall, or like I said, like a Heisman pose that keeps other people at arm's length. And when we free ourselves from that, using that energy left and right just to try to keep people at bay, it actually is going to be that rocket booster that pushes us into our purpose. And so this is very much a faith journey, and it's a faith story, and it's also a story of making peace with all the parts that led up to the person we are today.
Yeah. I like what you said about that, especially as women. I feel like we always, if you're a mom and you're working and you're a wife, you feel like you have to keep it all together and we got to keep everything Instagram perfect,
Yeah.
which is a hard thing to keep up.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's exhausting. And we're all doing, here's the thing, like we would never do that to the woman next to us who's also running so hard and trying so hard to hold it all together. But we don't even have time to see that woman because
Yeah.
we're also consumed with feeling like the second we walk into any room, people are going to see right through us. And if they knew these parts about, oh, I grew up this way or this happened to me, I feel like for a lot of people, 2020 is going to be the trailer in their story. Things that were lost, hard things they came up against. And they feel like if people knew this about me, they knew I was struggling with this, they knew I was going through this, it would be the thing that would make them turn away from me. They would cast their eyes down on some sort of sympathy, shame on my behalf. But really what we find is that when we're honest and vulnerable about these hard parts of our story, it actually makes people lean in. We become a lot more approachable. There's empathy and kindness there, and sort of like a solidarity there that, oh, okay, you've struggled too. You're human too. And when we just spend like all of this time building these brick walls, we think it's to keep other people at bay, but it really becomes a prison of perfection we keep ourselves in. And achieving becomes like this oxygen that we feel like we're suffocating without, but nobody ever tells you it's no way to breathe.
Wow. Nobody tells you it's no way to breathe. I love that. You mentioned a few times talking about shame. Tell me about that. That's a big theme in your book, releasing shame. Tell me more about that.
Well, I think the biggest thing that shame likes to tell you, that like it likes to lean in and whisper, is that you are the only one. If shame can keep you believing you're the only one, it keeps you silent and it keeps you solitary. It keeps you kind of away from the pack. It's sort of like a wolf trying to pick off the weakest link. And I think shame likes to come along and say, you're the only one. You're the only one who struggled with this. You're the only one who's had a hard time. And if anybody else knew, they would laugh at you. They would judge you. They would turn away from you. And shame really only works in that vacuum, because the second you say, the very first time I stood on stage and talked about growing up in a trailer, we had given tons of talks before, and like people would come up afterwards. It was like, oh, thanks for the, tips, the business tips. The first time I stood on stage and said, I'm the girl in the trailer, there was a line out this giant ballroom and down the hallway, to the point that the staff of the conference center had to break it up 3 hours later, of people just wanting to come up to say, I thought I was the only one. I'm the girl in the trailer. And this thing I thought would disqualify me from the stage and would keep me disconnected was the thing that actually resonated the most. So
Wow.
these scales, these itchy, they don't fit. It's like a really heavy weight around your neck. You were never intended to carry. And it only wins, it only operates if you stay silent about those things.
Mhm. The other thing that you've talked about a lot in your book is about forgiveness and healing, which I feel like all of us can use a dose of that right now, especially in 2020 with things being so different and wow, I don't know. I could go on and on about things in 2020, but tell us about what you talked about, your take on forgiveness and healing in your book.
Yeah, I think I've had a few friends who said to me, Mary, I do not think it was a mistake that this book is coming out in 2020, a book about reconciling, a book about forgiveness, a book about redemption, a book about maybe not agreeing or seeing eye to eye with the people in your life, but saying to them, I'm still here and you're still here and we're still family. And I feel like this book is going to be really appropriate around Thanksgiving. All those family dinners happening.
Required reading before we gather on Thanksgiving.
Listen, I feel like that's a message we should spread. I really like that message. Required reading, do it. I feel like it's an interesting book because I grew up in West Virginia, which is one of the reddest states. I now live in Connecticut, which is one of the bluest. I love people on both sides of the political spectrum. And this is a book about, we can go and we can leave a place and we can build our own lives and we can build our own beliefs, but that does not have to be a betrayal to the places and the people who raised us. And we can still bring honor to those people and what they believe and how they see the world, even as our worldviews change, maybe, or even as just our views on what's possible in life change, or what we want in life change. And I had a few wise advisors in writing this book who said, listen, can you write this book in a way where you don't embarrass your family, you don't embarrass the place that you're from, you don't close the door on reconciliation, but you still tell the truth about hard things? And that became kind of like marching orders. That became my challenge.
Yeah, you talked about writing the book. What was that process like for you? Was that healing for you in a way, or was that painful as you had to write these things down?
Both and both.
Yeah.
Yeah, but draft one was particularly hard, and I think that draft was for me. It was the first time I really put words to it and got it out, all out on the page. And I think sometimes you have to write a draft of the book of your story just to realize the story you don't want to tell. And so I kind of had this keep calling it my Christmas Carol moment, where I could see a glimpse of my future of that book on shelves, and it was not the future that I wanted. And it was still Christmas morning, and I had a chance to do it right. And so I rewrote that draft. It took me 2 months. I had 2 months, and we rewrote about 50,000 words, we being me and my editor. And as soon as I turned that one in, I was like, that's it. That's the book that I want this to stand for, because I almost had to clean out the wound with draft one to get to that place of healing. And in a lot of ways, the book is structured that way. It's divided into 2 parts: the girl in the trailer, the girl after the trailer. Part 1 is sort of ripping open all the wounds, telling you where the hurts came from. And then part 2 is all the different ways God used to stitch up and find redemption in those stories, not just in one way, but God being God, more like 7 ways, which is, that's an interesting number for God, I feel like.
Yeah, for sure. Well, tell everybody, you and your husband have a business. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we have so I went to Yale for law school and graduated to become a wedding photographer, which is a really expensive way to become a wedding photographer. And we
Yeah,
business for 15 years,
you
actually.
could write your own contracts. You could write really great contracts there, right?
Amazing contracts, amazing contracts. And we built that business for 15 years, and we were at the top of our game. We were traveling all over the world, teaching all over the world. And it was just like this beautiful, beautiful business. And I love being an entrepreneur, but writing was always the dream. And writing this story in particular was always the dream since I was about 5. So we knew it was time for me to get moving on that.
And so you started the process of writing a book.
Mm.
How's it feel now to have author by your name, since that's
Amazing.
been a dream?
Oh, I feel like it's got to be similar to you labor and you go through a lot of pain, and like the second you hold that baby, you forget all the pain. I feel like it's got to be similar to that, where it's just like, gosh, if somebody rewound the clock and I had to start over, 2 years ago, just climbing that mountain again, that would be really daunting. But this feeling of like it actually being out in the world, I would do it. It would be hard, but I would do it. It would be worth it.
Have you read any reviews that people put about your book yet?
Yeah,
How's that been? That's always like, oh man, there's always somebody who has something negative to say.
we've had I'm sure there are, and I'm sure that we'll deal with that as the book spreads. But thus far, we've been getting just really powerful, very long quotes. Actually, like that's my publisher was talking about that. They've been really surprised at just how long the quotes are. It's not just like great book, and so that's been really cool to read and just actually see that it's doing the stuff you always prayed it would do. That it's actually people are getting from it what you hoped that they would, and that. Whether or not the stories are the same, they're finding themselves in it.
Yeah. Well, sounds amazing. I have not had the chance to read it yet, but I've got that. Do you have a copy of the book with us you can show?
Oh, I do. That's like 101, isn't it?
I know. I was like, wait a minute. I don't have the.
No, we do. We've got one. We'll get it for you. Oh gosh, I just went really bright there, huh? We're almost there. He's grabbing.
Okay.
Yeah. What's funny is that we have 80 of these in the car because we're doing an event on Friday. But you can see it right here.
Oh yes. See, I've seen that. I have the digital version, but I haven't seen. I love it. Tell me about that picture. I always am curious about pictures. Since you're a photographer, did you take that picture? What was your take on that?
Yeah, my husband Justin took it. He went to school for photography, and the very first time I took him home to West Virginia to meet my family in 2004, he took the photo. And what's funny is that 2004 digital cameras, that was the first Nikon D100 digital camera. So when the publisher said, "Hey, we want to use this photo on the cover," we were like, A, do we still have that file somewhere? And B, is it going to be high res enough? Like D100 digital file, it's going to be like this big, but it actually worked. It did barely work. So I think that's really powerful that it's not just the trailer I grew up in, but my husband's.
He took the photo.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a full story. I love it when a story comes full circle.
Yeah.
Tell everybody where they can find the book.
Yes, so if you check out thebookdirt.com, so bookdirt.com, then that's sort of our central hub. You can watch the book trailer video, read some excerpts, check out all the things we're offering over there. You can grab a copy, read a chapter, all that sort of stuff, thebookdirt.com.
Think there'll be a movie or a short film about it?
No, I actually do. I'm just going to go on record right now. Because,
okay, I want to hear it.
I really do. I believe that there's going to be a movie. I think it's a book and a story made for a movie. And when you check it out, you'll see that, like, just the story of fathers and daughters. And I think my dad is this incredible, endearing character throughout the book. And my grandma Goldie's this sassy 5'2" little woman who kind of like was a towering force in our family tree. And we actually reserved the movie rights. So we sort of had a feeling that it was meant. And I love the movies. I love the talkies, I always say. I'm such a movie buff, so I feel like it would be the perfect ending.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll be waiting for that. That's one thing I missed during the pandemic. I love going to the movies as well, but
me too.
I haven't been in a very long time.
The recliner chairs that lay back.
Yeah, exactly. And they bring food to you or whatever. We've got fancy ones. They bring you food and everything.
Well, that is fancy. Well,
hey, Mary, it's great to catch up with you. You guys go check it out, The Dirt. It's a great story. We all can use a good story right now. And so thanks again for joining us. Have fun while you're here in Franklin.
Oh, thank you. And thanks so much for having me, Donna.
All right. We'll see you again soon. Bye, everybody.